This podcast contains adult content and themes. For a full list of our content warnings, please see our show notes. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome, my dear travelers, to the Morbid Forest. Greetings, dear traveler. Seems you found your way to me right on time. Oh, yes, I can. I'll be your guide to the forest, and Oh, sorry. Did you say you needed help with your shadow? Well, now, don't see many in your situation. Don't worry. I consider myself somewhat of a shadow master.
What is more loyal than a friend, but also as sticky as chewing gum? At first glance, the question may seem strange. Well, okay, it's strange. It was asked of me by a drunk friend in the middle of a New Year's Eve party. Let's just say it quickly left my mind. And yet, as short and as abstract as it is, it has the merit of resonating with my situation. I am a director of shadow plays, also known as shadow puppetry. Performers use silhouettes that you create using your body or objects. For my part, I have chosen to prioritize the use of my hands. This choice is partially motivated by the simplicity of the process. Obviously, I don't limit myself to just this field. Some of my shows use paper silhouettes or involve real actors. Nevertheless, shadow play is my great specialty. What was initially just a passion quickly became my livelihood. In summary, I had everything to be happy. Yes, I had. A few months. It just took a few months for everything to fall apart. This burning passion I nurtured crumbled to ashen soot. To be honest, I even hesitate to tell you this story. Yet, I desperately need to. I need to get this off my chest, or I'll go crazy. I was in my room when I realized the first incident occurred. That's where I usually create and rehearse my shows. Consider yourself lucky not to sleep there. Between the dirty clothes on the bed, the bits of trash littering the floor, and my puppeteering screen in the middle of it all, I still wonder how I accomplished anything under these conditions. Shutters closed the lights off, turned on my projector, directed it towards the screen, and I got to work. I had to prepare a puppet show for a very busy cabaret. It was scheduled for the next day and might boost my career. I couldn't afford to mess up and had to make a strong impression. So, I started by warming up with the basics. Dog, bird, duck, rabbit. Nothing too tricky for a novice like myself. As the time went on, the silhouettes became increasingly complex. Snail, kangaroo, panther, the shadowy shapes glowing across the screen as darkness surrounded me. I then had fun making silhouettes of my own. A Native American, a cowboy, two lovers kissing. The kind of things that testified to my dedication to the art. The position of the fingers, the consideration of perception, the fluidity of movements, everything was under control. It was at this moment of forming yet another silhouette that something strange happened. The shadow of my hands no longer appeared on the screen. At first, I attribute it to fatigue. I'd start again, thinking I must have just been hallucinating. However, all of my attempts prove unsuccessful. The outline of my hands is always missing on the screen. I gradually start to suspect the projector's lighting. Who knows? Maybe I'd adjust the settings without realizing it. Still, after checking, settings seemed correct. I even unplugged it and then plugged it back in to make sure everything was fine. Despite everything, I had to face the facts. There was nothing wrong with the projector. That's when I quickly suspected an issue with the screen. Yes, I know, it's even less likely than the projector. I told you. I didn't want to believe what was happening to me. So, I lifted the spotlight with its tripod and pointed it towards the door of my room. I had ruled out everything that could be responsible for the situation. The only word. I was convinced of it. However, my last attempt proved me wrong, and also ended in failure. The shadows in my hands simply vanished. I oscillated between fear and frustration. The idea of losing my shadow was inconceivable. This situation was similar to losing a limb. I grunted in frustration, slapping my hands down repeatedly onto the projector in a desperate attempt to make it work. Defeated, I marched to the center of the light beam near the door, sweat trickling down the nape of my neck at the idea of not finding any part of my shadow. Yet, as astonishing as it may be, it worked. My shadow was back on the door, sending relief crashing over me. While I was curious as to what happened, I was just happy the problem appeared resolved. However, that feeling was short-lived. Something caught my attention at the door. My shadow. It was not the same. While my hands remained raised to my face, my shadow's hands rested along its body. For a moment, I stood frozen, my mouth parted in an O of shock. The anomaly. This made no sense. Fear and fascination roared in my bones, finally spurring me into action. I tore my arms in all directions, shaking like a loon, but to my horror, my shadow remains motionless. My stress only escalated. There was no way I was going to be stuck with a frozen shadow until my death. My job, and by extension my life, depended on my ability to use my shadow. My mind raced for a solution, landing on the most ridiculous. Hello? My voice quivered against the walls as I began talking to my shadow. I introduced myself, and I waved at it. To my utter shock, my shadow, which had been motionless, raised its arm, waving hello to me. I jumped back in surprise, tangling myself with the projector cable and colliding with the floor. Stars swarmed in front of my eyes, and I lay in a mess of limbs and cords. The projector spotlight sat tipped on its side, illuminating my entire body. As I lifted my head, I saw my shadow, crouched at my feet and shaking its head. Fear spiked through me, sending me crawling towards the wall behind me, just to get away from it. In hindsight, I realize it's strange to run away from one's shadow. On the other hand, I was panicked by what I saw, and I was right to be. My shadow was now gigantic and was staring at me, tilting its head side to side. I don't know if the comparison is relevant, but I felt like an ant being watched by a man. Still, it and I engaged in the longest staring contest of my life. At least, that's how it felt to me. However, I quickly realized it was waiting for something. So, I gathered my courage and broke the silence that had settled into my room. Are you alive? In response, it simply raised its thumb, as if to say, yes. As I replaced the projector, I slowly stood up. And then I asked further questions. Do you want to harm me? This time, it answered negatively by shaking its index finger from left to right. Seeing that, the pressure eased, and I started to move closer to the door. As I did so, my shadow gradually shrunk to its normal, less threatening size. I finally arrived at the entrance. I placed my hand on it, examined it from every angle. Could this be possible? I asked aloud. In response, my shadow just shrugged. After that, I just remember staring at it for hours without moving. Since that day, it hasn't stopped making its presence known. Most of the time, it was to get my attention and to have me talk to it. It only ever did this when I was completely alone. Yet, I was always afraid that someone would notice and I'd be caught talking to him. Over time, I implemented certain strategies to anticipate these scenarios. To give you an example, I avoided sunny places or those lit by streetlights as much as possible. I always moved through the dark and the poorly lit alleys. Of course, it had its drawbacks, and I had to adapt certain aspects of my life accordingly. Despite everything, I was quite satisfied with the system. At least no one would think I was crazy or anything like that. I admit, at first, I found it burdensome to live with my shadow. I don't know about you, but I hate it when someone constantly looks over my shoulder. Whether at home or elsewhere, I don't have a single moment of privacy to myself. Nevertheless, I eventually got used to it and even came to appreciate his presence. It was like having a pleasant roommate. Except he doesn't pay rent and he doesn't talk. Beyond that, my shadow was quite candid, but could sometimes be mischievous. In fact, it was its teasing that helped me to get to know it better. One day, I caught it holding the shadow of a pillow. Yes, you heard that right. It was able to grasp it, like anyone would with any object. The pillow started floating in the air until it threw its shadow in my direction. I could tell you that I had a good laugh when it hit me in the face. After the pillow bomb moment, my shadow expanded its grasping abilities, becoming helpful in various ways. It could reach high objects, help put away dishes, or carry heavy things. Deep down, I believe it was just happy to support me. It was the most symbiotic relationship there could be. My story could have ended there. A shadow endowed with consciousness, but seemingly harmless. It was strange, but there was no reason to be alarmed either. It should have stopped there. There was one thing I had dreaded more than anything about my shadow: that it would intervene during one of my shows. I allowed it to design them with me, but that was where it ended. That was the rule it had to follow. During the first few months, it refrained from doing so. I thought, naively, that it would never happen. Unfortunately, the universe proved me wrong a few days ago. A director I was acquainted with had contacted me when his lead actor had broken his leg. She wanted me to audition for her body shadow show. I was lucky for the break, although still nervous auditioning for the position. It also helped that the director was familiar with my work as both an actor and a director. The audition went better than expected. Landing this job was huge and set to open many doors for me. It was the kind of job which marks the pivotal upturn in an artist's stature. Unfortunately, everything was jeopardized the day I crossed paths with Marcus. He was the biggest jerk I had ever met. He had a high opinion of himself and treated others like crap. He was constantly playing the diva and harassing the technical team. In his eyes, everyone had to bow down to him and fulfill his every wish. Yet, no one was fooled by him. We all knew why he was chosen, and, spoiler alert, it was absolutely not for his acting talent. Oh yes, it's easy to have a supporting role when Daddy funds the play. That's actually why he targeted me. He couldn't stand not having the lead role. He kept threatening me verbally to make me leave the play. Of course, he did it discreetly, but I assure you, if he could have, it would have come to blows. On my side, I didn't retaliate. As I said before, I couldn't afford it, and he knew it very well. This little game went on throughout all rehearsals, a month of hell where I had to endure the pressure inflicted by that asshole. I don't know by what miracle, but I had managed to hold on until the big day. I told myself he would leave me alone during the show. He wouldn't make a scene at such a critical moment. It turns out I was completely wrong. While everyone was in a rush before the curtain rose, he waited until I was alone to talk to me. His sly smile told me all about his intentions.
So you decided to stay? I told you to get the hell out of here.
Get off my back, Marcus. Aren't you tired of bothering me every day?
What are you talking about? Just trying to help you. A piece of advice? Let it go, my friend. You don't have the stature for this role. This play is serious. It's not meant for second-rate actors like you.
Second-rate? Say that again for me to hear.
Excuse me, I misspoke. I'm just saying it would be in your best interest to leave.
Why are you telling me this now? It's an hour before the premiere.
Alright, listen. Here's what we're gonna do. You will tell the director you don't feel well or you have an emergency. You will find a credible excuse to leave, and in exchange, I will make sure that your career remains intact.
And who would replace you, you big smart aleck?
Oh, don't worry, the director has everything planned. Anyway, he will be forced to give me the lead role.
I had forgotten. Your father.
You see, my plan is well rehearsed, and everyone benefits. I'll take over your role, and you can go back to your shadow puppet shows.
It's called Umbramania.
Meh, if you want. So then, what do you say?
Not a chance. Not only are you hindering my chances of advancement, but on top of that, you are threatening to destroy my career. If you think I'm going to give in to your blackmail, you are sorely mistaken. To my great surprise, he started to laugh.
Ascension? Career? Back down to earth, my friend. All you do is wave your hands in front of a screen. Even a child can do it. At what point in your shitty life did you convince yourself that this would open doors for you? Come on, do what I say, and we won't talk about it anymore. Consider yourself lucky I'm letting you continue your lousy shows.
Hearing that, I clenched my fist. I had a furious urge to punch him in the face. Instead, I replied to him sharply, "Go fuck yourself, you piece of shit! I'm not giving you my spot!" After saying that, the expression on his face changed. His mocking smile was quickly replaced with a grimace of anger. He took 2 menacing steps forward, his fist balled tightly at his sides.
Okay, you want to play it like that? No problem. I wanted to be nice, but you leave me no choice. I'm going to make your life a living hell, you little shit. You can already say goodbye to your career. I'm gonna make you out to be a pariah in the eyes of the entire profession. No one will want you anymore, and you'll end up on the street like the bum you've always been. So enjoy the show, because it'll be the last time you step on this stage.
He turned around to head towards his dressing room. I didn't even dare to threaten him back. I saw in his eyes that he wasn't joking. Yet, I was holding myself back with all my strength to avoid jumping on him. As I was watching Marcus leave, I caught sight of something out of the corner of my eye. I instinctively looked at the illuminated wall to my left. It was my shadow, except it was different. Something was wrong with it. It looked darker, both literally and figuratively. Then did something that did not help my situation. It picked up the shadow of an accessory located at my feet. After that, everything happened very quickly. The accessory began to float while my shadow held hers in its hand. Seeing that, I immediately knew what it was planning to do, so I tried to dissuade it by whispering, "I beg of you, don't do that." Unfortunately, it didn't work. The next second, I saw it thrown at full speed at Marcus's direction. The accessory hit his shadow and landed right on his head. He immediately let out a cry of pain before turning towards me. He was furious. He rushed towards me and grabbed me by the collar. His fist was raised, ready to hit me, when the director appeared behind him. She had undoubtedly been alerted by Marcus's scream.
What's going on here?
She was accompanied by 2 members of the technical team. In their presence, Marcus quickly calmed down.
We were just talking, right?
I wanted to avoid problems at all costs, so I acted as if nothing happened. He's right. We were just talking, that's all. The director did not try to understand the situation.
I couldn't care less. The first show is in an hour, and I see that you are still not in costume. What are you waiting for? The flood? Hurry up before I kick you in the ass. And you lot, get back to work. This isn't a spa here.
With those words, everyone returned to their tasks. Before leaving, Marcus gave me one last warning.
Enjoy your performance. It will be your swan song.
After all that, I was able to breathe in silence. I turned to my shadow to gently give it a moral lesson. I know you wanted to help me, but you must never do it again. It could get me into a lot of trouble, and I don't need that right now. Can you do this for me? Please. My shadow didn't react at all. I'll take that as a yes. Stay calm, and everything will be fine. I went to go get ready for the start of the play. The first part of the show went quite well. I was in my element. The darkness of the room, the silence of the audience, me in front of the screen, the projector lit behind me. Apart from the sophisticated set, there was nothing unusual. I recited my lines with precise ease, and my gestures were memorized by heart. If I were to be poetic, I would say that my shadow danced on the screen. I even took a certain pleasure in it. It had been a long time since I had created body silhouettes. I think, deep down, I missed it a little. In any case, everything was going smoothly. Well, that was until Marcus and I were both on stage. We were supposed to play a philosophical discussion between 2 friends. The action took place in a living room with a subdued atmosphere and a dim light. I had to make a superhuman effort to focus on my lines. Standing next to him made me want to vomit. I regretted not giving him a good kick in the groin. That was all he deserved. In hindsight, I think it was because of my anger that things got out of hand. While he was speaking, I heard some people in the audience whispering to each other. At first, I didn't pay attention until I heard someone ask what I was doing. I didn't immediately understand what they were talking about. It was by observing the screen that I grasped the source of their concern. My shadow was even darker than in the wings, and clearly wanted to settle the score with Marcus. Without warning, it lifted its foot to crush it down onto Marcus's shadow. The next moment, he gritted his teeth while looking me in the eyes. He was angry, and he was trying his best to mumble something to me.
What the hell are you doing, damn it?
I delivered my next line, keeping an eye on my shadow. Unfortunately, it didn't stop there. Before I'd even realized it, it punched Marcus in the face, causing him to fall to the ground. Some people in the audience started to laugh. They thought that this was all part of the show. In the distance, I saw the director asking me what was happening. The expression on her face was filled with confusion. Marcus was trying his best to get back up. He didn't stop glaring at me. If he could have spoken, I'm sure he would have insulted me with every name under the sun. I was overwhelmed by the situation and paralyzed with embarrassment. I had no idea how to react to it all. Whether I panicked or did nothing, I was going to be kicked out of the show anyways. Everything was becoming confusing in my head, to the point of where I could have fainted on the spot. Suddenly, time froze around me. I could hear neither the director nor the audience's laughter. My head was turning backwards to the screen, watching in astonishment what was unfolding before my eyes. My shadow raised its hand towards Marcus's silhouette. It extended its index and middle finger, joining them together, before curling the rest of its finger. Fear engulfed my entire being. I knew what was going to happen, but I didn't want to believe it. So I closed my eyes, praying to wake up from this nightmare. Then, a deafening bang echoed through the room. When I had opened my eyes, all I saw was Marcus's body bathed in his blood, blown apart. Red stains on the screen attested to the violence of his death. The audience began to scream and run in all directions. Everyone was trying to get out of the theater as quickly as possible. Some even shoved others to rush towards the emergency exit. I stood there, staring at Marcus's corpse. I still didn't realize what had just happened. At first, I thought it was a bad dream, but I gradually grasped the magnitude of the tragedy. If my feet hadn't been glued to the ground, I think I could have curled up on the floor. To tell you the truth, the last thing I remember is my shadow clapping maniacally at what it had just done. I was arrested as the main suspect in Marcus's murder case. However, they found neither weapon nor bullet on Marcus's body. Even the shell casing was absent from the crime scene. Without any evidence, they were forced to release me, and the case was closed without further action. Today, I live in complete darkness and no longer come out of my house. I no longer want my shadow to be exposed to any light whatsoever. I would like to avoid the aforementioned events from happening ever again. I do have a question for you, though. What do you think is the most ironic? That I feel lonely, even with my shadow? Or that I am a shadow man who is afraid of it? I'll let you ponder that.
This has been a Morbid Forest production, and on this week's episode, you've heard The Shadow Master, written by Atlas, with narration by Kiefer Light as the Shadow Master, Shawn Moreau as Marcus, and Meagan Fuller as the director. Story editing and audio production by Naomi Richards. Our theme music was created by Blakmoth. Music and sound effects provided by Epidemic Sound. No AI was used on any portion of this audio drama. Make sure to check out our show notes for links to Atlas's website as well as his Reddit page. Follow us on X, or Twitter if you're old school, Instagram, Threads, Blue Skies, Tumblr, and Discord to stay up to date on all the happenings within the forest. Interested in more morsels of the forest? Then join our Patreon. As a faithful traveler, you'll receive exclusive access to early episode releases, access to all bonus content, and ad-free episodes for just $3 a month. That's patreon.com/themorbidforest. Can you spare a moment to help other travelers in need? For just one review or 5 stars, you can help a fellow traveler in desperate need of a horror podcast. Ratings and reviews are the best way to find lost travelers out there. So head to your favorite podcast platform today to assist a fellow traveler in finding their path to the Morbid Forest. The time is nearing, dear travelers. The season is coming to a close, and the Morbid Forest will become dormant once again. There are only 2 more stories left in this season. As I mentioned last week, you should revisit Season 4's finale, just to refresh your memory on events. And with that, we'll see you next time, travelers, on The Morbid Forest.